Some encounters leave scars not on the body but on the soul. Daniel walked into that building expecting another lonely shift. But what he faced was something far beyond human understanding. He stood his ground when fear demanded he run, proving that courage is not the absence of terror, it's the choice to act despite it. The child he protected may have been a restless spirit, but in that moment she was a reminder of something universal, that even in the darkest places, compassion has power. Evil feeds on fear, but kindness can break its grip. So the next time you walk alone at night or hear a sound that makes your blood run cold, remember Daniel's story. Shadows may be waiting, but so are the choices that define who we are. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to turn away. The night began like countless others for Daniel, a 36-year-old security guard who had grown used to long, silent hours in the company of his flashlight. The shift started at midnight, at an abandoned corporate building that had been closed for years, awaiting demolition. No one liked being assigned here. The place was too big, too dark, and filled with a history no one wanted to talk about. Daniel arrived in his usual uniform, boots echoing against the cracked pavement as he crossed the parking lot. The wind carried a strange chill, sharper than the autumn air should have been. He tried to shake it off, telling himself it was just another night. Inside, the silence pressed down like a weight. The fluorescent lights buzzed and flickered, casting pale light across rows of empty cubicles. Forgotten paperwork still clung to desks, dust thick on every surface. Daniel's job was simple: make rounds, check doors, report if anything unusual happened. Easy money. But from the moment he stepped inside, something felt wrong. He couldn't shake the impression that the building was alive somehow, like it was holding its breath waiting for him. Every creak of the floorboards, every hum of the lights felt exaggerated, as if the structure itself was amplifying its presence. Half an hour into his rounds, Daniel walked past the break room when a loud slam echoed from the far hallway. He froze, gripping his flashlight tighter. The sound reverberated through the building like a gunshot. It wasn't a random creak or a gust of wind. It was deliberate. Someone was here. He moved cautiously toward the source, the light from his flashlight jittering across walls as his hand trembled. His radio was silent, offering no comfort. Daniel told himself it could just be a squatter, maybe a teenager daring to explore. That was possible, wasn't it? Still, the way the sound had carried, sharp and commanding, felt unnatural. He rounded the corner of the hallway and found nothing but closed doors and peeling paint. His pulse quickened. A voice deep inside urged him to leave, but his training and responsibility kept him moving forward. This wasn't going to be a boring night. Daniel's boots echoed against the stairs as he climbed toward the third floor. Each step creaked as though it hadn't been touched in years, the sound stretching unnaturally in the silence. His flashlight beam wavered across the stairwell walls, illuminating peeling paint and water stains that ran like veins down the concrete. The air grew colder as he ascended, his breath beginning to fog in front of him. When he reached the landing, he paused. The hallway ahead was long and narrow, lined with doors on both sides. The silence was suffocating, so complete that even the hum of electricity seemed absent. He tightened his grip on the flashlight and stepped forward, boots crunching on a layer of dust. That's when he noticed it. Taped crookedly to the wall was a piece of paper, yellowed with age. His light passed over it and his chest tightened. It was a child's drawing. The crude sketch showed a stick figure of a man standing beneath something enormous and dark, a shapeless black mass with long, crooked arms. In one corner, a smaller figure, a child, was drawn in red crayon, its face a hollow circle. Daniel stared, unnerved. This wasn't a school. Why would there be a child's drawing here? He looked around, half expecting to see someone lurking, but the hall was empty. Then his radio hissed. At first, it was faint static. He froze, bringing the device closer to his ear. The static crackled, shifting, and then a voice bled through. A soft, distorted whisper, "Don't go upstairs." Daniel's heart leapt. He spun in a slow circle, flashlight cutting through shadows. "Control? Repeat that." "Say again," he whispered, his voice shaking. But the radio went dead. Only silence followed. He wanted to believe it was interference. Old buildings like this sometimes played tricks with signals, but the whisper hadn't sounded like dispatch. It had sounded wrong. Every instinct screamed at him to leave. Walk out, lock the doors, pretend nothing had happened. But duty was ingrained in him. He wasn't hired to run from shadows. His responsibility was to secure the building no matter how unsettling it felt. Taking a slow breath, he pressed forward. His flashlight swept over broken glass scattered along the floor. Old office chairs toppled on their sides and doors ajar like mouths yawning into darkness. The temperature kept dropping the farther he went, and with it came a creeping sense of dread, like invisible fingers brushing against his neck. The hallway stretched endlessly, his footsteps unnaturally loud, bouncing back in echoes that didn't quite match his rhythm. He couldn't shake the feeling that someone was trailing him just out of sight, keeping their distance, waiting. And then, another noise. From above, a faint scuff of movement, like someone dragging their feet across the floor of the level above him. Slow, intentional. Daniel swallowed hard, tilting his flashlight toward the ceiling. His stomach turned heavy with dread. Whatever was here, it wasn't done with him yet. Daniel forced himself to climb the next set of stairs. His boots thudded dully against the steps, each one louder than the last. He told himself he was only doing his job, checking floors, clearing rooms, reporting disturbances. But in the hollow silence of this building, every movement felt amplified, like he was trespassing in someone else's territory. When he pushed open the door to the 4th floor, darkness swallowed him whole. Unlike the floors below, no emergency lights hummed here, no weak glow from broken fixtures. The entire level was drowned in shadow. He clicked his flashlight on, its narrow beam carving out a shaky circle of pale light. The air was different here, stale, heavy, and foul. A putrid smell rolled over him, thick with rot and mold. He pulled his collar up against his nose, gagging slightly. Something had been here, something dead. He moved cautiously down the hallway. His flashlight caught glimpses of overturned desks, scattered files, and jagged holes in the ceiling where water dripped slowly, echoing through the silence. The walls were covered in graffiti, layers of spray paint spelling curses, names, and strange symbols. But one thing stood out. At the end of the hallway, his beam landed on a phrase scrawled in something darker than paint, smeared in frantic strokes across the wall. He watches. Daniel's throat went dry. The words seemed to pulse in the beam of his flashlight as if alive. He stepped closer, his own reflection flickering in shards of glass on the floor. His mind raced. Teenagers? Vandalism? But deep down he knew. This wasn't mischief. This was a warning. The air shifted suddenly. The temperature dropped so sharply that goosebumps rose along his arms. And then came the sound behind him. The floorboards creaked. Daniel whipped around, flashlight trembling in his grip. The beam cut through the darkness, illuminating nothing but empty hallway. Dust floated in the air, undisturbed. Who's there? His voice cracked, echoing in the silence. No answer. He stood frozen, his breath shallow. The creak had been clear. Someone, something, had stepped just behind him. His radio, clipped to his belt, gave a sudden burst of static that made him flinch. He grabbed it, pressing the button. Control, do you read me? I think I've got something on the 4th floor. The only reply was more static. Then buried in the distortion, a low chuckle. Not human. Not right. Daniel's skin crawled. He dropped the radio back to his belt, his pulse hammering. The shadows seemed to stretch closer, creeping along the walls toward him. His flashlight flickered once, twice before stabilizing. He backed away from the message on the wall, heart pounding so loudly he could hear it in his ears.
He had to get out of this hallway, had to keep moving.
Or he knew he'd break, but with every step he took, it felt like the darkness followed, pressing closer, whispering things he couldn't hear but could almost feel. And for the first time in years on the job, Daniel realized something terrifying. He wasn't the one patrolling this building. He was the one being hunted. Daniel's breath came in shallow bursts as he pushed deeper into the dark corridors. Every nerve in his body told him to turn back, to leave this cursed place behind. But he kept moving, flashlight trembling in his grip. He told himself it was duty, that he was here to do a job. But in truth, something else drove him forward. An unsettling mix of dread and compulsion. As if whatever haunted the building was drawing him in. The hallway bent sharply, leading into another stretch of offices. The air was colder here, thick with dampness. His light scanned across broken doors, jagged ceiling tiles dangling by rusted wires and stains smeared along the walls. Then his beam froze. At the far end of the hall stood a small figure, Daniel's throat tightened. It was a little girl, no older than 8, barefoot, wearing a pale white dress that swayed gently as though caught in a wind that didn't exist. Her hair hung long and dark over her face, concealing her features. He swallowed hard. "Hey, are you lost?" His voice cracked against the silence. The girl didn't move, didn't even flinch. She simply stood there, still as stone, her head tilted ever so slightly downward. Daniel took a cautious step forward, raising his flashlight. "It's okay. I can help you. Are you here alone?" The beam illuminated her pale skin, almost gray as though drained of life. She didn't answer. Instead, her arm rose slowly, unnaturally, and pointed directly behind him. The blood in Daniel's veins froze. He spun around, flashlight slicing through the dark. Nothing. Just an empty hallway stretching behind him. When he turned back, the girl was gone. His stomach dropped. He swept the beam across every corner, his chest heaving, heart pounding in his ears. But the hallway was empty, the girl nowhere to be seen. Then came the sound, tiny footsteps. Soft, quick, echoing from all directions, like small bare feet running in circles around him. Daniel spun, flashlight whipping from one side to the other. Shadows leapt across the walls, taunting him. His radio screeched suddenly, bursting into harsh static. He fumbled for it, pressing it against his ear. Through the noise, a voice pushed through, warped, unnatural, almost inhuman. "Run!" The single word rattled through him. He froze, gripping the radio so tightly his knuckles turned white. His body screamed to obey, to turn and flee. But something inside him, stubbornness, maybe courage, refused. If a child truly was trapped here, he couldn't just abandon her. He couldn't run, not yet. He steadied his breath, forcing calm into his trembling voice. "You're not alone," he whispered into the darkness. "I'll find you." The footsteps stopped. Silence swallowed the hall once more. And with the weight of unseen eyes pressing in from every angle, Daniel stepped forward into the dark, toward whatever waited for him below. The staircase to the basement groaned under Daniel's weight as he descended. Each step felt like it carried him deeper into something he couldn't return from. The air grew colder, damp with the scent of mold and something metallic. Iron, blood maybe. His flashlight beam wavered, cutting across pipes that dripped steadily, the sound echoing in the emptiness. At the bottom, a single corridor stretched ahead, lined with rusted doors. The walls were damp and crumbling, graffiti smeared across them in red and black. The beam of his flashlight jittered as his trembling hand swept across the space. Then he heard it, a soft sobbing. It echoed faintly, drifting down the corridor, childlike and broken. His chest tightened. "Hello?" he called, voice low, almost afraid of being answered. "Who's there?" The sobbing didn't stop. It grew clearer, closer. Daniel followed, heart hammering until his flashlight caught her. The girl sat in the center of the basement floor, knees drawn to her chest, her small hands covering her face. Her pale dress was stained, her bare feet blackened by dust. Daniel lowered his flashlight, trying not to blind her. "It's okay," he said gently, voice shaking. "I'm here to help you. You're safe now." The sobbing stopped. Slowly the girl lifted her head. Daniel staggered back, bile rising in his throat. Her face wasn't human. Her eyes were nothing but black, hollow voids sunk deep into her skull. Her mouth stretched too wide, trembling in a silent scream. When she spoke, her voice didn't pass through her lips. It rang inside his skull, vibrating against his bones. He never left. The words chilled him to the core. Before he could react, the shadows behind her surged upward. From the darkness, a figure began to take shape, massive, towering, its form dripping with inky blackness. Its arms were impossibly long, skeletal, tipped with claws that dragged across the concrete, sparking as they scraped. Its head bent low, a hollow void where a face should be. Daniel stumbled backward, flashlight beam flailing across the horror before him. Every instinct screamed to run, but the girl was still there, trembling, her hollow face lifted toward him. The shadow lunged forward, the air vibrating with its silent roar. Daniel gripped his baton, though he knew it was useless. He made his choice. Instead of fleeing, he threw himself between the creature and the girl, planting his feet firmly. His voice cracked but carried defiance. "If you want her, you'll have to take me first." The shadow froze for a moment, its faceless head tilting in confusion. Then the girl's form began to glow, a blinding light pouring from her hollow eyes and mouth. Daniel shielded his face as the brightness consumed the basement. The creature shrieked in silence, its body shattering into ribbons of darkness that dissolved into the walls. The girl looked at Daniel one last time, her form dissolving into light. Her voice, soft and childlike now, whispered in his mind, "Thank you." And then she was gone. The basement fell still. Only the echo of Daniel's ragged breathing remained. He stumbled up the stairs and out into the night, the first hints of dawn breaking on the horizon. He had survived. But he knew he'd never be the same. Some encounters leave scars not on the body, but on the soul. Daniel walked into that building expecting another lonely shift. But what he faced was something far beyond human understanding. He stood his ground when fear demanded he run, proving that courage is not the absence of terror, it's the choice to act despite it. The child he protected may have been a restless spirit, but in that moment she was a reminder of something universal, that even in the darkest places, compassion has power. Evil feeds on fear, but kindness can break its grip. So the next time you walk alone at night or hear a sound that makes your blood run cold, remember Daniel's story. Shadows may be waiting, but so are the choices that define who we are. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is refuse to turn away.